Drink with Derek here in Las Vegas. Derek Richards, your host. Thanks for joining me. Stephen Pearl is with me here. Is a comedian, a regular at the Comedy Store. His name is on the wall. You can see it. It's above the driveway, and there's some bird crap on it.
Bird crap right near my name. Yeah. Well, I heard it was one of the birds. They said it was one of the birds from the movie The Birds, so he's a famous bird. I think Tweety Mandelbaum. He worked a lot in the early '60s, so they put him on. They put the bird shit on there, and it's right above my name. I'm very proud to be located there.
The bird crap needs to stay. I don't care what anybody says. You worked with and wrote for Robin Williams, Sam Kinison. You got a podcast out now called Referendum, where you got interviews on there with Robin Williams, Tom Dreesen, Johnny Winter, Edgar Winter, a bunch of other comics and musicians.
People, Felicia Michaels, Carrie Snow, a whole bunch of great comedians, a couple of musicians. It's they're a few years old, but it's still up and running. So I might bring it back. I don't know, but it's up there for you if you want to hear good interviews. Bill
Well, you can find it. It's referendum.com, but RIFF-ERENDUM.com, correct?
Yeah, but I think the hyphen is you can use it or you cannot use it. Either way, it'll take you there. But don't quote me on that.
Perfect.
It's a hyphen, it goes either way. So
good to see you, man. I'm glad
to see you. It's been a while, damn it.
I know. Glad we could hook up here doing the virtual thing. And you have I first saw you in Vegas a few years ago, and we were working at Jokesters Comedy Club at the D, I believe.
Yep.
And John had told me, I said, who's on the show tonight? And he rattled off a few names that I knew, and he said Stephen Pearl. And so I'm like, well, who the fuck is Stephen Pearl? I did not see your bird shit covered name on the wall at the Comedy Store, so I was unaware.
You gotta look harder.
And Don's like, he's been around a long time. You'll love him. And you go up on stage, met you, and you have a delivery so fast.
Yeah.
I mean, you can I think if you like stretched out your material, you'd have like 7 hours of material, but you do it all in about 11 minutes.
I get rid of the commas and the periods. It goes by quicker that way. So. Punctuation, my eye. Come on, we've got places to go.
Why would you let punctuation get in the way?
Punctuation, schmunctuation. Take your semicolon and dangle your participle somewhere else. I don't need this.
Dude, you've been around. You've been doing this since you started in 1977 in New York, and then you left New York for the Bay Area. But before we get to that, did you start in New York City, in Manhattan? Where were you at?
First time I ever did it was at a School of Visual Arts talent show on May 20th, 1977. It was a Friday night. And the first time I ever did comedy, Elvis was alive and Son of Sam was on the loose. That'll tell you how old I am. I had my act written in hieroglyphics. Let's see, guy running this way, mule head, sun, eyeball, Pharaoh's head, cart. Okay, it looks better when I say it. I just started in New York, and I was in love with San Francisco. I went to visit there in the summer of '76. Like, I got to live here. Rent was cheap, and it was beautiful, and it was before, 10 cities and all that stuff. So 3 years later, in '79, I moved to San Francisco from New York, and luckily there was this big comedy scene starting. I just lucked out, the timing was perfect. So, there's a guy named Alex Bennett, who was a well-known New York radio personality who was in San Francisco, and he had a morning show on, and he'd have comedians on. And luckily, I was one of his favorites, so I could go on and plug a show, and you'd plug a show on that show, and it would sell out. It was drive time radio. And then all these gigs started having one-nighters and week-long gigs. You didn't have to leave the city to work. You could stay in the Bay Area and just, didn't have to go on the road if you didn't want. It was that big, so.
How was that like in New York, though, when you were starting out? Because a lot of people are so used to seeing, talk about comedy scenes today, I mean, there were no funny bones all over the place back at the time. I mean, so when you were starting off in New York back in '77, when you went up at that School of Visual Arts, I mean, what clubs were in existence for you to even go up and try to get stage time?
Well, there was amateur night, Sunday night at the Improv, which I found out you had to go there at noon to wait because the line was around the block 8 times. Since the first time I went at 7:45. Oh, I'll just go on stage. So I think I'm going to go on at 6 a.m. if I wait here. So I learned my lesson the next time. I got there at noon, and I went on at a good time. But there was the Improv. There was Catch a Rising Star on First Avenue and 77th Street, I think. There was a place called Pips. I'm wearing the T-shirt right here. And Pips in Brooklyn. Right. Wow. There. And that was on Emmons Avenue, where Rodney Dangerfield would try stuff, and David Brenner used to try stuff. I saw Dice Clay there for the first time when he did the Nutty Professor bit in 1978, and they were real nice to me. The Schultz brothers and the father were real. They let me go on, and I barely knew what I was doing, but they let me MC on Wednesday night. So I take the D train down to Sheepshead Bay, go to Pips and laugh your blues away, and we just they were really nice to me. There's a place on 31st and 3rd, I think, called Good Times. And they had a comedy night, and they would let me do longer sets because they were the lesser known clubs. But I did well, so they let me go on and keep going. So they were great. The Good Times was great to me, and Pips was great to me. And then there were, then I went to San Francisco before the New York scene started growing.
So when did you start honing your style of just that bam, 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 machine gun type delivery? Was that something that you had started doing out of the gate, or was that something that you just acquired?
It was acquired. I started out as horrible. I wrote my bits on my hand. It took me 3 years to take the mic out of the stand. That was no lady. That was my, oh shit, it's smudged. That was my, and I used to be nervous as hell, but somehow after a few years, it just happened. It just kind of morphed. It's like learning an instrument or learning anything, martial arts or how to build a building or something. You start out knowing nothing, and you just get better, and some kind of style morphs out of somewhere. So that's what happened.
So how long did it take before you started doing that, and then it started really catching, and you're like, okay, this is my hook. This is what I'm going to do.
I started working. I don't know. I go on the radio, and I would be that same way on Alex Bennett's show, and I would get laughs and call, hey, have this guy back on. He's nuts. In fact, if you don't have him back on, he might end up on a rooftop with a rifle going, I'm not what Daddy wanted. I'm not what Daddy wanted. I'm not what Daddy wanted. So they let me go on all the time, and it just morphed into that somehow, because I could show you early cassettes I made, and I'm horrendous, man. I'm just like, Hamana, I was the king of Hamana, but somehow it turned into whatever the hell it is now, and it seems to work most of the time.
Well, so you take off to San Francisco. You love the city. You wanted to head out there, and again, you kind of stumbled upon this booming comedy scene that was happening over there. Is that where you ran into Robin Williams? Because he was from the Bay Area, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was from the Bay Area. He spent a lot of time there. When he was a big star, he'd come there as much as possible. And I met him at the Holy City Zoo. I saw him perform in early '79 at the boarding house. And I think I saw him and Bill Kirkenbauer the same week, and both of them just cracked me up. And that's when I really made up my mind. I want to get into this full time. I knew it before, but this was like the clincher. And I met Robin, was hanging out at the Holy City Zoo, and the first time I met him, was that him? What's he doing? That's not him. That's not guy looks like him. And it turned out to be him, and we just became friends. I go on stage, he'd go on stage, and I'd go on stage, and we'd laugh at each other. Sometimes I'd see my stuff on television without me doing it, and it's just not much fun. And but hey, wait a minute, that joke's familiar. That's mine. Why you? Phone ring. Ka-ching, ka-ching. Here's a check. So I got paid every time, but I got borrowed.
Well, I was going to say, because Robin was known for lifting material, but he would compensate the person that he took it from for the most part. I don't know everybody's story. Everyone's got their own story, but I know you've told me stories about this before too, where you would do a joke and then all of a sudden you would get a call from a friend of yours a couple days later, and Robin had done that joke on the Tonight Show. The first time that you heard that he did that, I mean, did he contact you and say, hey, Steven, I took your joke, here's a few bucks, or did you call him?
I called him.
And go, hey, I don't want to be a douchebag or nothing, but, that joke on cats that you did on Carson is mine.
Yeah, he kind of knew it, Once it came out of his mouth, he realized, I should have done that too. And I call him, and then to be a check the next day, delivered. So, you can steal more. My rent's due next week, so you can steal a couple of jokes if you need them. So, but the thing is, when he would take a joke, he would change one or two words and make it better. Go, that's the way I should have done it. He would just fine tune it immediately, and that's the way. That's why I was getting a chuckle instead of a big laugh. So, but I didn't hate the guy. It's part of the thing, and he paid up, and he paid a lot more than I was going to ask him for. So, it's better than having someone lift your stuff and do it and saying, screw you, pal. It's too bad. It's mine now. So he was very good about that. I just know his memory just absorbed so much stuff that I don't think he knew he was saying it until he said it, because it was just so much stuff. Because as as proof, or what I would call proof, I had a T-shirt once with the slide guitar player Dwayne Allman on it once, and Robin goes, "Who's that?" He goes, "Dwayne Allman, slide guitar player, Allman Brothers Sessions, blah blah blah." 10 days later, I'm wearing the T-shirt. Yes, I washed it, and I see Robin again, and he goes, "Oh, who's that?" And I go, "It's Dwayne Allman of the Allman Brothers Band, slide guitar Sessions." A few days later, I'm wearing the T-shirt. I see Robin, "Who's that?" I said, "It's Dwayne Allman." I told you 800 times, you mother. So he didn't remember, man. He didn't remember. Like, and my mind kind of goes like that, but I can remember stuff, so I can imagine his was like even faster. You know, it spun around faster than anyone else's.
Well, what was that scene like in San Francisco? Was it as debaucherous as the Comedy Store? And we'll get to that here in a second. The Comedy Store in LA, or was it a little more subdued?
Well, there were a lot of good comics there. There's, Robin, there was Jeremy Kramer, there's Michael Pritchard, there was like so many good people. Paula Poundstone came there from Boston. It was just an army, a small army of kick-ass comics. It wasn't just like a bunch of hacks who were getting together. Like you see a lot of these Zoom shows, like 50 people talking over each other and nobody's saying anything, it's kind of like watching CNN or something, but everyone's just talking over each other. But there was a good scene, and there were little clubs starting to open, and there were one-nighters, and then once Alex Bennett brought it to the air, then other radio stations started competing. Hey, we're gonna have comics on too, and it just blew up. It just happened, like kick-ass music in the late 60s and early 70s. It just happened, and you go, well, we better enjoy this because it ain't gonna happen again for a while.
Well, now when you guys are getting together, you're going out, you're doing these shows, you're doing these open mics, or you're just doing these showcase type sets. I mean, Robin Williams, a noted partier in his heyday. You as well, as you and I have often joked around about. I mean, it was, and eventually that stuff takes its toll on you. I mean, you and I were working at the D Casino in Vegas one time, and you were backstage, and you were sweating like a rapist. And I mean,
oh, God.
You were soaking wet, and I'm looking at you, and I'm like, "Are you okay, dude?" And you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be fine." And even you telling me about your health at that time, you were still talking in that same stage. Bam, 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 bam. No, okay.
Oh yeah, no, I thought, this is it. I'm gonna die on stage.
I remember joking with you. I said, "You know what? This is all that residual cocaine from the 80s all of a sudden racing out of your system right now."
Oh, yeah. I sneezed and a car payment from 1988 came out. So, it was AFib. I had AFib for a long time. I had it fixed in August, so I don't have to worry about that. Believe me, the stress I've gone through since then, if I still had it, would have killed me 12 times. So it hasn't happened since then. So they just went in me with a tube, went in me with a couple of catheters, spot welded my heart. You're okay now. Go frolic on stage, young man. Leap, prance about.
So what was the partying scene in San Francisco? You're hanging out with Robin Williams. And whoever else that you're hanging with at that time. I mean, was it booze? Was it cocaine? Was it pot? Was it pills? Was it everything?
Cocaine was huge then. Cocaine was huge. It was everywhere. A bird would shit on you. It was all over the place. It was coming out of the faucets, and we had money, and we were young and stupid, and your heart could take almost anything back then, and we did it. I was never that big into alcohol. Pills were never my thing. That was like kind of trailer trash for me. But pot and cocaine were big, and the occasional mushroom, which was always fun. So, that was cool. Oh, I didn't do that.
Where did you end up? So then you ended up going down to, you leave San Francisco. Was your goal when you were in San Francisco to just do comedy? Were you looking to get into screenwriting or acting or anything like that? Or did you just want to be a comedian at that time? And then if something else rolled down the pike, it would happen?
Pretty much that. I wanted to do comedy because there was no buzz like doing stand-up, as I still believe. And it's sort of, I just take it one day at a time. Whatever happened, and maybe I'll end up it's like driving a truck out of control. I might end up in front of a crack house. I might end up in front of Paramount Studios. Let's see where we run out of gas. So I don't know. I just was taking it one day at a time, and I could have, I could say, well, if the scene goes on forever, I'll stay in San Francisco. I'm happy. I'm enjoying myself. I'm out of New York. I don't like New York anymore. So, but it took me to LA eventually at the urging of Sam Kinison, a young fellow I worked with. And He said, "Come to LA, I'll get you in the Comedy Store." I worked with him like '85, I think, a couple of times. And they had to bring him back a month later because the money they paid him, he spent that on partying and more. So they had to bring him up like an indentured servant to like pay his bill off. You know? So they brought him back and I said, "Let me work with him again. Let me work with him." I usually was a headliner by then in the Bay Area, but when Tennyson brought it, I'll open. I want to hang out with him. We had a good time. So when I went to LA in late '86, I auditioned at the Comedy Store, and Sam dragged Mitzi in to make her watch me. She wasn't going to watch me. And he sat next to her in her booth, and he like blocked her in and said, "You better hire this guy. I want to burn this place to the ground." So that was very nice of him to do that. And I was lucky. I had a really kick-ass set, like my little 2-minute set. And she hired me on the spot. "You're a paid regular now. I want you to move down here." And I had 6 more months of paid gigs in San Francisco. There's a lot of work then, so I did those. And then I moved to LA on June 24th, 1987. And
so your relationship with Kinnison started when you were in San Francisco. Do you remember the exact spot where you met Sam, or were you guys hanging out and partying?
There's a big sweat spot in Clement Street right there. So, I heard about him in '84. I did a gig in Texas. Was it Houston? I think it was Houston. And some people came up to me, "You're crazy, man. You remind me of this guy, Sam Kinnison." And half the people hated him and wanted to kill him, and half the people told me what a genius he was. So when I heard both sides, like, I got to meet this guy. So they brought him to San Francisco like the next year. So let me work with him. I like begged, "Let me work with him. So they brought him. I let me work with him. We hit it off. I drove. I think it was him. I brought up Carl LeBeau the first time and Freddie Asparagus the second time. And I just drove him around and we did gigs and had a good time. And then, he took care of me when I went to LA, which was very cool. So, it was nice of him to do that because he was a crazy person. He could have hated me as much as he liked me, so.
Well, it's rare when you see somebody who's that big of a star, and he wasn't that big of a star. I guess he was on his way, but he wasn't huge at that point. This would be like right before, right?
Yeah, this is before. I think he might have just done the Dangerfield special or was about to. So the word was out about him, and they were talking about him in San Francisco and in Texas. "You got to see this guy. So he lived up to everything that was they were saying about him. Woo!
So you go to LA, and now you're hanging out at the Comedy Store, and there's a great series on Showtime that's put together by Mike Binder called The Comedy Store, and I've seen 4 episodes. I think there were 6. I'm not sure. I stand to be corrected, but I know there's 4 episodes. Brilliantly done by Mike Binder. Anyone who's a fan of comedy at all should watch this. It's very, very, very well done. They talk about the store. They talk about the house behind the Comedy Store.
Like this. Oh, you mean there was a little cottage up on the hill, up on the driveway, which was next to the Comedy Store, and then there was Crest Hill, the Legend House. That's Crest Hill, where Paulie used to live. Mitzi bought the house. Comics lived there. It was mayhem. It was madness. It was craziness. She wanted me to move in there. I said, no. I'm getting my own place. My daytimes belong to me. At nighttime, I'm yours. I will hang out with the comics. So I'm not living with a bunch of comics. I know how crazy I am. I'm not living with these people. I wake up and who's pouring Coke in my eye? Cut it out. I'm trying to sleep. So, I haven't blinked since December. So it was just crazy there. And I was there one night when Sam was throwing furniture out the window. He was like having a tantrum or something. It was just, I want to live here. I don't think so.
Well, it's funny that you, for being the partier that you were and being as young as you were at the time, to have that awareness where anybody else would be thrown into that environment and go, "Oh my God, this is great. I can do cocaine, I can drink, I can smoke, and I can pop pills, I can hang out with all these great comics until 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and then go to sleep, and then wake up at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, get a bite to eat, and then lather, rinse, repeat. You do the whole cycle all over again.
Lather, blow your nose, take the blood out, and start over again.
Yeah, start the apologies, and then hopefully, nothing's cut.
I took it out in front of who? Oh the Pope. Oh no.
Well, you used to go up there, obviously, to Crest Hill, the house, the famous comedy house. What's the most memorable night or nights besides obviously Kinnison throwing furniture out the window because he had some kind of a tantrum? Was there any other night that comes into your mind where you remember being in this scene and going, "This is incredibly surreal"?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember it was raining real hard one night and everybody was coked out of their minds. We were just like standing on the outside, just getting soaked, and nobody gave a shit. Should we go inside? It's a little drier. Nah, fuck it, man. Let's just hang out here. We just like, I think we're going to get pneumonia. Yeah, we might die, but it's okay. So it was just nuts. You never knew what was going to happen. You just kind of knew when to leave the party, which was kind of hard. I used to party with Sam at his house, and I'd be there for like 3 days. And you try to leave, and he blocked the door. Party goalie, no one leaves. Party goalie. So I gotta go home, Sam. It's been 3 days. My teeth are sweating. See, party goalie, you can't leave. I need a company. I need company. So it was strange.
I've never heard the phrase "party goalie." That's the first.
That was Sam's. He blocked the door. Party goalie, no one leaves.
So were you hanging with him at the time when everything started to break loose with Kinnison?
No, he was already getting there when I met him, and then he got real huge. He was playing the Universal Amphitheater and all that, and I think he had a big fight with Mitzi. So he took his boys and he stayed away from the Comedy Store for a year or two. So and I stayed at the Comedy Store because I need to work. So I was so I'll see you, Sam. So then I saw him. He came back like shortly before he got killed. So I saw him a couple of times. Then he was no more.
Now, Robin Williams, did you continue to, was there, as close of friends as you were with him, was there any opportunity for you guys to act on some projects together?
That would have been nice. I was never asked. I saw him in LA though. I was the whole 22 years I was in LA. I saw him twice, 2 times. I saw him a million times in San Francisco before I moved to LA, and afterwards. We reconnected, in fact, when I went back there. That's when we became friends, and there was no drugs involved anymore. So I think I will be friends with this guy. I have judgment now. So what was the question? I forgot. Anyway, I forget.
So just for him having the acting career that he had, I didn't know if that was something where he would reach out to other comedic friends of his and say, you know what, I've got an opportunity. Let me bring you in on this particular project or something. I never knew him as being that type of person, but I could be wrong.
Never, not as far as I know, it didn't happen. I know he had a clause in his contract saying that he had to have so many homeless people as extras and they'd feed him and take care of them, which was pretty cool. But it's nice to know I wasn't thought of as much as a homeless person. I'll get you in heaven, Robin. No, it was what it was.
Even worse if he would have included you as a homeless person. Oh yeah, I know
nice, yeah.
Stephen Pearl's he's not doing shit. Let's bring him over.
Yeah, let's go. Here, put this on. Here, shake your hand a little bit, you son of a bitch. And then you have to be homeless if you want to let yourself. Oh, you got to give your home.
What was that like when you're working in LA or you're working in San Francisco? Because we obviously didn't have all the comedy clubs that there are around the country today. Yeah. I mean, would you go into cities like Kansas City or St. Louis, somewhere in the Midwest, and do shows, or were you just pretty much sticking to the coast? I know you said you worked in Houston when you had first heard about Sam.
Yeah.
What was that comedy club scene like?
It was. I got stared at a bit. So, what's this Jew doing? Why is he making me think? Ow! Oh, you're making. Oh, that hurts. Stop it. Take out a shiny object and wave it in front of me. So it was. Some of the clubs were great. I worked this club. I think Jokers in Tulsa in '84, and they were real nice. And I work other places, either stare or I do really well. It was that kind of act, whatever the hell I was doing. It either worked or it just went, huh? So, yeah. Well, at least, you'll remember me though. I'll tell you, you may hate me, but you'll remember me. So, even today.
What was your best road story that you can think of? Whether it's, and when I say best road story, I always ask this question. It can be either the best experience that happened to you or the worst experience that makes for a great story to tell.
Oh, I remember I was in Phoenix, and this young lady, this big cokehead, came to my show, and she was pretty, and she wouldn't stop talking. We went to her house, and we're just tooting up and having a good time, and all of a sudden there's this loud bang on her door. Baby, open up! I'm out of jail. I want to see you, baby. I'm out of jail. Apparently, her large Mexican boyfriend was just released from prison for beating her up, and he was back. And we were all paranoid and doing blow, and boom, boom, boom. She goes, ignore him, he'll go away. So, fucking, I'm shaking. What the fuck, man? And so finally, it stops. Then it goes into the back where the window is. Bam, bam, baby, let me in, man. I love you, baby. I want to kill you. I want to fucking kill you. You bitch, I love you, baby. So... he went to the door again. I said, fuck this. I just climbed out the first floor window and just walked across this park and found a cab. And then then I get in the cab some Indian guy goes, "Were you with that crazy lady in the greenhouse? Guys are always leaving that at 4 a.m. I don't know why." So I'm getting the fuck out of here. That was scary, man. Oh, I don't know what happened after that, but she showed up. She showed up at the club 2 nights later with a black eye and wanted me to come over again. So I said, "Nah, I think I'll pass on that." So yeah, this big old shiner. So,
I give you a lot of credit for having the brake pedal to touch. Because seriously, you and I both know we could rattle off 15 to 20 comedians right now that would instantly go, well, okay, she's got a black eye, but I'm good with that.
Yeah, bam. Well, I didn't give it to her. I'm a peaceful guy.
She's got a black eye. She's got some cocaine. Yeah, she's got a boyfriend who's a little bit irritable, but
that boy needs to compose that gentle blue pill. It's COMPOZ, compose. Now with fish oil.
Who did you work with back then that you had, at the time, you had no idea that they would become big, and all of a sudden they exploded, and you're like, wow, I didn't see that coming?
Yeah. That's a good question. I've seen people that I haven't worked with who made it big, and they go, what the hell is this all about? I don't want to mention any names of people whose work I really don't respect, but there was one featured in the Comedy Store thing that I haven't seen it, but I heard about it, who's like, who's kind of new, and I just don't find this person funny at all. And this person has what do you call it? So they showed in the reruns, one of those sitcoms that's unwatchable, man. And this person is like raking in the dough, and here I am chasing my rent with a butterfly net. So, life is unfair, and show business is more unfair, and you just don't get bitter, and just be cool.
Did you ever try to go out for the, because you go back to like really one of the original reality shows, if you will, would be Star Search.
Oh yeah, sure. I never did Star Search. I watched it, and I don't know. Just I don't know if I was a bit nervous or didn't want to smell the beer on every man's breath or whatever. So, little pal, perfect stars, 4 stars for you. Our comedian tonight is so generic, he's his own challenger. Here's Jerry Narek. Hey, airports are funny places. How about that, Jack Nicholson? Fast food's Michael Jackson. Thank you very much.
Well, now back then, when those guys were coming in and working on because I'm sure there were plenty of guys that were coming into the Comedy Store and working out their sets that were going to be on Star Search.
Yeah.
And when you're in the back there watching this, I mean, are you seeing an act that is being dictated by a manager or an agent, or were you looking at it going, okay, this is somebody actually telling their story. This is a legit, comedian.
I respect just about anybody who gets up there, especially by themselves, and does it, even if it's like generic material or harmless material or whatever. They're doing it. It's hard to just get up there by yourself. And I saw some people. Well, some people are playing by the rules. They're going to. Well, I'm going to be clean. I'm going to be harmless. I won't have a point of view. I'll wear a suit. They take the business stance of it. And then there's guys who take like the outlaw stance. Oh, I'm just going to be myself and fuck around and have a good time. And you can make it either way. You cannot make it either way. So. It was like the difference between the Improv and the Comedy Store. I found the Improv was like going to work at the office at a job you liked, and the Comedy Store was like spending the night on the playground. So they're like those kind of comedy. The Comedy Store kind of bred more of the free form crazy people, and the Improv was more of the suit wearing, corporate type. Well, I'm gonna, hey, I tell you, hey, bosses are funny. So hey, my mother-in-law, boy, what so but.
Well, now, how did the Laugh Factory fit into this equation? Because really, there were the 3 biggest clubs in LA, which would be the Comedy Store, the Laugh Factory, and the Improv. Well,
the Laugh Factory at first was the club everyone felt sorry for. It was just this little hole in the wall. And Jamie, the Messiah, I'm going to make this the biggest club for years. I'm going to rebuild and make it bigger. And everyone's going, yeah, sure. And he did it. And it's like, I think it's bigger than both the Comedy Store and the Improv now. It's huge. It's, the lines go around the block there. We play the Laugh Factory here in Vegas. There's Laugh Factories all over the place. So hear that, Harry? Book us again. Book us together, Harry. Book us together. We'll kick ass. Hint. And it's just, I forgot the question. I don't know where my mind's going, man. I'm not even on anything now.
This is, the beautiful thing. People that are watching this right now truly need to understand that this is not an act from Stephen Pearl. This is Stephen Pearl.
This is me.
What you see right now, this is not him just talking to me and being completely out of his mind. This is Stephen Pearl.
This is me. What I do? What I do? Nothing.
This is exactly
Sue
what.
My landlord. Sue my landlord.
So the Laugh Factory, you said, really, at the time you said it was kind of laughed at years ago.
Yeah,
it was just had exploded. I mean, where did they fit into the scheme of where you say the Comedy Store was like a playground, the Improv was more like going to work? Was the Laugh Factory something in between, or was it something completely off the?
Kind of between, maybe a little more towards the Improv, because it's like the network guys would go there, and Tim Allen would show up and do sets and all that stuff. So yeah, it was a little more of that, but it was fun. It was a great place, So I played there as much as I could. Then you had the Comedy Store, the Improv, and the Laugh Factory, all within like a mile of each other. So that was pretty cool. And but there were just so many rooms in LA where you perform for free and go nowhere, and you get the press. And here's a slice of pizza. You're 40 now. So you're 50 here. Here's a slice of pizza. Nice set. So this is what I get out of it after 30 years. So
one of the things they talk about in that Comedy Store series was when they had the big comedy strike.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Now, were you a part of that at the time?
No, that was 79. I was still in San Francisco, but it was huge news. You heard about it everywhere. It was like one guy killed himself because of it. So
well, yeah, that's one of the things, because people don't know what happened. It's like comics were not paid up until a certain point. They were just, this was an opportunity that Mitzi Shore had given them to go up on stage at the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the comics started seeing money coming in. People were paying to get in the door. They were buying drinks. They were hanging out. And they were seeing the Comedy Store making money. And the Comedy Store was not paying the talent. And so who spearheaded that? Do you remember?
Oh, God. I know Tom Dreesen had a lot to do with the negotiations. He's a good negotiator. Everybody likes Tom, no matter what side you're on. Tom's a great guy. Right. So I don't know how I don't know who's Letterman had something to do with it. Jeff Altman, I think they were on strike. No buts, no yucks, or something like that.
Right.
And some people were against it, saying, "Look, I'm lucky to be getting on stage. I'm not that great yet." So it's just I heard there are people to this day that are not talking to each other because of that evil 41-year-old strike. So it's insane. I still talk to people who are bitter about, "Oh, fuck that guy. He was with the strikes." Come on, man. It's over.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of bad blood went down. I was lucky to not be in it, and I don't think I would have struck anyway then, because I wasn't that good then. I wouldn't, I would have been grateful for the stage time. So.
Well, now you're in San Francisco at the time when this is going down. Obviously, word gets around the business, and you're hearing about it up in San Francisco. Was there a division of people up there that were saying, you know what, the Comedy Store should pay people, and other people that were saying, no, people should be grateful for the stage time?
There were differences of opinion, but nobody got mad at each other because we weren't directly involved in it. We had our own thing, and people were starting to make money in San Francisco. So, especially if we got on Alex Bennett's show, then you were pretty much made in that town. So, but no, we talked about it, but there were opinions, but nobody got, I disagree. Why? So with Biden and Trump, I'll never speak to you again. Who are you voting for? Some old white guy. I don't remember. Who do you see, or who did you see back in the day at the Comedy Store, or even let me say the Comedy Store, and then also when you were in San Francisco? Who would go on stage where you would go, you know what, I got to watch this? Oh yeah, well, in the early 79 or 80, Dana Carvey, you'd watch him and you go, this guy's going somewhere. This guy's going. He was already starting to go somewhere even back then, so he was real good. And Paula Poundstone came out. I thought she was amazing. And anyone who says women aren't funny, watch Paula Poundstone. You'll change your mind. She was absolutely brilliant, even in the earlier days. Who else was in LA? I remember just seeing. I remember seeing Eddie Murphy go on at the Comedy Store. He was already famous, of course. But I just remember looking at his watch and going, "That watch is worth more than everything I will ever own." So, that watch is worth more than 10 of my cars. To hit him on the head and take that watch and just move to Antwerp or something. They never catch me, but I remember that. But yeah, but no, not that many. I've seen some people who shouldn't have made it but did. But what the fuck is he doing on TV? Jeez, should be on America's Most Wanted, not a comedy show.
How is that viewed in the scene back in the day? Because I know now today they end up, you go out to a comedy club in Los Angeles or in New York, and you're seeing talent people out there looking for certain people. And I mean, now literally they want to see who's getting like, more views on YouTube, what's their presence on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, what are they doing as far as that goes? And, okay, do they have this certain look? I mean, now back then, obviously you didn't have all the social media outlets and the internet and all that. I mean, was there a certain style that they were looking for, or was, how was that being viewed by the comedians?
I don't know what they were looking for. I think in the late 70s, they were looking for like out there stuff. Like you had Robin and you had Andy Kaufman and you had guys who were just like outside the box. And now it just seems they want something very generic and safe. And, there's cancel culture. They don't want to take a chance. So like, I think if Richard Pryor and Carlin was starting out today, or Kennison, they wouldn't get a gig to save their lives. Oh, you're too controversial and you're talking about race and this and that. So it's too bad, because that stuff should be encouraged if it's funny. It expands the mind. So, but now I see people just talking about nothing, about making the sandwiches, and you put the bread on, and you put the bologna in the middle, and you cut the sandwich. What the hell are you doing? This guy's making $250,000 a show. Ah! Won't mention any names. And then he writes the check and dots the I and crosses the T. Say something generic, make a face, they all laugh. So.
Did that ever even, I mean, obviously we have the cancel culture now because of social media.
Yeah. And
when you look at like Bill Burr's appearance on Saturday Night Live, which I thought was hilarious. I mean, his monologue cracked me up. I mean, Bill Burr is one of my
he's great, man. He's one of the kick-ass Boston guys. So
and so literally he's, on TV I think he said like during the monologue, hey, you gonna go cancel me. I don't care. Cancel me.
Oh, that's so funny.
I mean, did you have people back then, whether it was in like a news outlet or media outlet, that would go after certain comedians for being controversial?
Well, they went after Dice Clay at first because, they call it the comedy of hate. And they went after Kennison, the comedy of these people just hate their dogs. If you don't like it, don't listen. There are people I'm not fans of, and I'm like, oh, they should be banned. I just turn the channel, man. I don't know what they want. So, and there's not that much of that going on now. There's real controversial, very funny stuff. I've seen people try to be controversial, but they treat the audience like a psychiatrist's couch, and they're just like having a breakdown, and they're not being funny. So, you can be political, you can lecture the crowd, you can just be silly and goofy, you can use props. Just be funny. That's all we ask. Be funny. But there's so many of them aren't.
Well, you see a lot of that stuff that seems to kind of turn into a one-man or one-woman show.
Yeah.
Where, like you said, it's their therapy session. They
exactly.
start talking about how they got fingered by their uncle at camp. It's like, okay, I just want another vodka tonic and I want to start laughing because this is not what I expected.
I put a fork in my eye and stuck a straw in my vagina and blah, blah, blah. And my uncle, he eats soup with a fork. I don't know why, but he's crazy. And shut up. That's what they're doing now. I've seen some of these shows. They're horrible.
Well, did you have anybody back then that tried to do stuff like that in those scenes, whether it was in San Francisco or in Los Angeles, and all of a sudden, for whatever reason, Mitzi saw it and went, no, this is stupid, get out of my club? Or the clubs that you worked at in San Francisco said the same thing. They're like, no, this is not funny. We don't know why you're here. Please leave.
Oh, yeah. We had one guy who tried to hang himself on the stage once at the Holy Cities. I can't take it anymore. And they'd pour water on his head. And, it's over for me. And this is it. Hey, I'm just kidding. And you go out the door and keep walking till you see a pair of conjoined albinos describing the Pythagorean theorem. Keep walking, then come back. Okay, but not a second before.
I will give you I'll give you huge props for being the first guest that I've had actually say Pythagorean theorem. So well done.
Pythagorean theorem, ladies and gentlemen. I got to tell you, it's wild.
I did not see that one coming, and
neither did
I'm sure you didn't.
A riff. Another one. Oh, stop it.
So you're here in Vegas now. Do you get back to San Francisco? Do you have any desire of heading back there? Or are you looking to just stay here in Vegas now?
I like Vegas a lot. There's, before this virus thing started, there was a lot of work and people accepted me really nice. And I made a lot of friends. I met you. I met a lot of good people. I see old friends come through town. I love it here. I didn't think I'd like it, but I love Las Vegas, man. It's and I haven't been to San Francisco since I moved here 2 years ago. I don't really miss it. I was there so much, and it's still in my head and my heart and my eyes and my ears and everything. And part of it's in my nose from the 80s, but that's another story. Oh, downtown Market Street. Oh, I remember Big Red. That shit had seeds in it. I like it here, and I hopefully now that the town is starting to open up again a little bit, we'll start working more. And if anyone's out there hiring comedians for a few shekels, I'm available. Hire me and Derek together. We do shows. Wait a minute, there we go.
We're in. We'll do it.
Let's do it.
How was it viewed in LA and San Francisco in terms of coming to Vegas? Was Vegas viewed as like the comedy Mecca at the time? Was it like you've made it when you can perform in Las Vegas, or were they happy in Los Angeles and San Francisco saying, you know what, I've got my Mecca here, I don't need to go to Vegas?
Oh, it depends where you got it going on. If you got it going on, some people in LA, that's where the cameras are. If you're working in front of the camera, stay in LA. I wish I knew what the scene was like here 10 years ago. Instead of going back up to San Francisco in 2009, I would have gone back up there, gotten my lady, and just come right to Vegas. So go to Vegas, baby. So, because I didn't know how cool it was and what great people were here. I kept thinking like Telly Savalas gambling. Come on, let's drink and gamble, baby. But I didn't know Vegas is cool, man. There's good comics here and good people, and and I like this. I like seeing gray hair on stage. There's a lot of gray hair on stage in Vegas. Old Jews go to die in Miami. Old comics go to die in Vegas. I had a choice, so I came to Vegas. So
they're
hiring the good guys.
You got more dark hair than I do. God bless you. Good for that.
Well, that's from when I was engaged. See, that's from it's like the Al Pacino Maine here. Ooh-ah, an old man with all his hair. Ooh-ah.
You absolutely crack me up. Anybody who comes to Vegas and gets a chance to see Stephen Pearl, you can you work at the Laugh Factory. You're also over at Delirious Comedy Club. I know Jokesters Comedy Club is going to be opening up here. The Laugh Factory is at the Tropicana. Jokesters Comedy Club is going to be over at Alexis Park Hotel, and then of course Delirious Comedy Club is Grand. Are you picking up stages around town here? You're jumping in doing stuff wherever, because I know there's always all kinds of one night shows that are popping up here too.
Yeah, I'm available. I'm here to beg for work. I'm here to say, give me work. I got bills to pay. I'm good. I'm funny. I'm Joker type. I'm around. Hire me. I showed up at Don Barnhart's the Delirious Club 2 weeks ago, and he's very nice enough to put me on. I wasn't scheduled, and it's just nice to get on stage for the first time since April. I go, whoa, I want to do this more. So anyone out there, you got any gigs for a few shekels? Think of me. Think of Derek. We're available.
And if you need a homeless guy to be an expert in your movie, Stephen Pearl has experience doing that. In all of Robin Williams movies, you need to look for the one homeless guy that looks like Stephen Pearl, and that is him.
Look for the pair of eyes surrounded by rags. You got any mucus I can borrow?
Listen, check out his podcast, Rifferendum.com, Riffferendum, interviews with all kinds of great comedians, musicians, like Robin Williams, Felicia Michaels, as you mentioned, Tom Dreesen, Johnny Winter, Edgar Winter, and
just the headliners, baby.
Go on there, listen to it, enjoy it, and always good to see you, my friend. Take care of yourself, stay healthy, keep the heart ticking.
It is strong, very strong. I can throw a boat over a wind building. That's how strong I am, my friend. Great to see you, Derek. You take care, and I'll hope to work with you very soon, my friend.
Absolutely, brother. Take care, man. Talk to you soon.